I realized one morning that silence has a shape. Not a soundless emptiness, not a hole where noise should be. But a shape you can trace with your hands if you're patient enough. It has edges. Weight. A temperature. That realization didn't come with drama. No argument. No slammed door. Just the steady understanding that some things don't break. They thin out. They grow transparent. Until one day you're looking straight through them, wondering when that happened. I used to believe that if something mattered, it would announce its ending. That there would be a moment you could point to and say, "That's when it stopped." But that's not how it goes. Not with friendships, anyway. They don't collapse. They drift. It starts small enough that you almost feel silly noticing. A call you mean to return later. Later stretches out. A week passes. Then 2. You tell yourself it's nothing. Everyone's busy. You'll catch up soon. Soon becomes a soft word. Rounded. Harmless. Soon never arrives, but it never leaves either. I remember standing in the kitchen once, phone in my hand, staring at a name on the screen. Not calling. Not calling. Just holding the weight of the decision. I thought, I'll wait. I don't want to interrupt. I thought, they'll call when they have a minute. That minute stayed theoretical. There were birthdays I noticed only because a calendar reminded me. I wrote the message carefully. Kept it light. Friendly. Unassuming. Hope you're well. Thinking of you. I read it over a few times before sending, the way you do when you don't want to sound like you're asking for something. The reply came days later. Short. Kind enough. I told myself that counted. It's strange, the way the mind protects you at first. How generous it can be with explanations. They're tired. They're busy. They mean to respond. I handed out grace like spare change, grateful to have a reason not to look too closely. But grace, over time, can start to feel like an excuse you're making for both of you. I don't remember deciding to stop reaching out. That's the part that bothers me the most. I didn't draw a line. Didn't make a promise to myself. I just noticed one day that my hand no longer went to the phone. Not out of pride. Not out of anger. Out of uncertainty. There's a particular kind of doubt that comes with silence. Not loud. Not sharp. It whispers. Am I misreading this? Was I ever as important as I thought? Did I miss a signal I was supposed to understand? You replay conversations from years ago like old home movies, studying the corners of the frame. Were they laughing with me? Or around me? Did I lean too much? Or not enough? I wonder sometimes if I changed without noticing. Not in a dramatic way. Just slightly off tempo. Like clapping a half second too late at a concert and realizing no one else is out of sync. You stop clapping altogether, just to be safe. There were things I didn't say because they felt too heavy to place on someone else's life. Questions that sounded needy even inside my own head. Are we still okay? Did I do something wrong? Those are young questions, I suppose. Or maybe they're just questions that don't age well. So I kept them to myself. Polite. Contained. I don't think anyone meant to leave. That's what makes it hard to talk about. There's no villain here. No betrayal I can point to and say, that's it. That's the wound. Just distance that grew in the space where shared routines used to live. We stopped knowing the details of each other's days. Then the outlines. Then even the general direction. When that happens, conversation turns careful. Surface level. You don't want to ask the wrong thing and reveal how far behind you are. So you ask about the weather. About work. About nothing that requires history. Loneliness, at this stage, doesn't crash into you. It settles. Like dust on a bookshelf you don't use much anymore. You don't notice it every day. But when you do, it surprises you how thick it's gotten. I don't feel bitter about it. That surprises people when I say it out loud. I think bitterness requires a sense of injustice. And I'm not sure there was one. Lives widen. Paths curve. Attention gets spent elsewhere, and not always consciously. That's not cruelty. That's gravity. Still, there are moments. Standing in line somewhere. Hearing a laugh that sounds almost familiar. Seeing something small and ordinary and thinking, they'd like this. That reflex doesn't disappear just because the connection did. I've asked myself whether I was too quiet. Too easy to lose. Whether being low maintenance eventually teaches people you don't require maintenance at all. That's a dangerous thought. I don't stay in it long. But it passes through. I also wonder if the silence was mutual. If, on their end, it felt the same. Two people waiting for the other to speak first. Both interpreting stillness as intention. It's possible. That possibility keeps me gentle. There's a particular humility that comes with realizing you may not be central in the story you carried for so long. Not humiliating. Just clarifying. You learn how much of belonging is assumed rather than promised. Some evenings are quieter than I expected they'd be. Not empty. Just spare. I sit with that quiet now instead of fighting it. I let it be what it is. I don't narrate it as loss. I don't call it peace either. It's simply the sound of fewer voices in the room. I don't reach out much anymore. Not because I've given up. But because I've learned that presence can't be negotiated. If someone wants to be here, they will find a way. If they don't, forcing the door open only teaches you how alone you are on the other side. Still, I don't close the door. That feels important to say. I leave it unlocked. Lights on. A chair pulled out just enough to suggest it was meant for someone. Sometimes I imagine the silence as a wide field rather than a wall. Something you could cross if you chose to. I wonder who's standing on the other side, making the same calculation. And I ask myself, quietly, without urgency or blame. When a friendship fades without a word, is it because neither person cared enough? Or because both cared too much to risk saying the wrong thing?